beautiful room again.
I know, this looks good. I want to welcome everyone. Now, this is truly about to be a vibe, y'all, because these brothers that I'm talking to today, they are in no way strangers to talking about ROI. These two creators, Rashad Bilal and Troy Millings, have turned their financial literacy vision into a real level up, and in many ways, a revolutionary media platform. Earn Your Leisure. You're no stranger to that. You know, the Earn Your Leisure show has amassed, let's talk about numbers, people, because that's what ROI is really about, over 50 million downloads, and is consistently ranked in the top 20 business podcasts in the U.S., peaking at number 1 on Apple Podcast charts, just to note. Many of you, though, we just gonna drop that. But many of y'all are already tapped in, you're already tuned in to all of their extensions, all of the levels of their platform. But we really want to talk to them today about what their future holds, because we're all looking forward, but also some lessons that have come with their remarkable growth, because it has been slightly meteoric, if you want to be honest. And really want to talk about how you've handled scaling your business and scaling your platform to meet your audience growth, but also just to reflect the vision that you have and the stories that you want to tell. So I want to thank you both for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
And I'm not going to go through no bios because they already know you up in here. So I wanted to get a little bit beyond the bios. You guys
beyond the bios. I like
beyond the bios. Somebody coined that.
Somebody got that?
Trademark.
You want to get beyond the bios. See, this is what happens at ROI. People be having like stuff just come out in just regular conversation. Y'all been noticing that? So you guys shared a throwback video recently of your first recorded classroom session before EYL was even like official.
Yep.
And that was just over 5 years ago.
Yep.
So like, y'all let that sit in. And so much has changed, you know, but I want to know, has your why changed? So y'all want to play a game?
Let's do it.
Okay. I like games. So everybody has played Two Truths and a Lie, whether it was at somebody's birthday party or something, right? So I like to call this Two Truths and My Why. So, you know, if y'all want to, y'all can Google these brothers. We're not trying to do, this is a Googleable moment. So these are all fans. I want each of you to offer them 2 truths that they may not know about you or your EYL journey, and share what your personal why has been, and if in fact it has changed over the course of developing your brand. You can take some time. Who wants to go first?
Can we do that one question at a time?
Yes.
I think I got it. So two
all right.
truths and my why.
You just giving me 2 truths, and then the why behind really why you visioned this platform, why you created it, and why you put so much of yourself and your money into making it what it is right now.
I got you. 2 truths. Let's do this. So I'm first generation American. I went to school for health science. I graduated with a health science degree, and then later got a degree in sports pedagogy so I could teach phys ed. And my why was impact. So every day was, even when I was a teacher, was like, how many lives can I impact? How many people can I impact? Because early on, I just realized that people will forget what you teach them. They will forget the things you tell them, but they'll never forget how you made them feel in the moment when
Absolutely.
you met them. And so it was always how many people and how big of an impact can I have. That was my why.
Dope. Snaps for that.
Mm-hmm. I think the why for me early was to be able to so I was a financial advisor before this.
Yeah.
So I had an idea to become a superstar online on social media. So the why was that I knew that I could impact a lot more people than having one-on-one conversations with people. Like,
Absolutely.
and I also felt like it was possible. Like at that time, it was kind of crazy idea to think of yourself as a celebrity financial advisor, but I felt like it was important and it's needed to balance the scales a little bit.
Absolutely. You saw yourself before you got there. That's visioning. We all seeing ourselves. I'm a billionaire. I know you don't know that. I'm just not. It's just this, my Wi-Fi is slow, so I haven't gotten there yet.
My bank account
But I'm on my way.
But there's truth in that, right? Like, I don't want people to like, it's like, yeah, we can make light of it, but there's a lot of truth to that, right?
Yeah.
So before I was ever a millionaire, my mindset was there that I was going to be one. And so
Absolutely.
it was just a matter of time before I became that. But when I got there, it wasn't, oh, I'm surprised to be here. I've always said to myself, I am going to be here.
You were cozy.
I was figuring out. Like I always say, I'm a millionaire. My bank account just don't match it yet.
Yeah. But we gonna get it there. All right, give me 2 truths, Rashad.
The truth is that Earn Your Leisure, it's really like a family organization. We're very big on hiring people that we grew up with and working with our family, and that's something that's important to us. So that is a model that we've kind of championed. Nepotism, I think, is something that is a good word. It's just bad for us because we're always on the wrong side of it. So that's why it's like, all right, you can't get the construction job because you're not related to, these guys. But when you are related, then it's a good thing. So it's
Yes.
like-
And you also can still do the work.
Exactly.
Let's keep it real. You're not just getting on because you got genetic linkage. You are getting on because you are skilled, but also we looking out.
Exactly. So that's one truth, and then another truth is that I always say, like, it's never over. You never really try to get too high or too low in this situation, and I learned that just early on from sports. So you just got to kind of stay even keel, and I think that that's something that we do every day because there's ups and downs in life, there's ups and downs in business. So we never really celebrate too hard, and we never really get depressed too low. Just
You
kind
like
of
to stay in the
even.
middle.
Yeah, stay even.
All right, let's get some snaps for that, people.
That's what we doing? From
We
the airport
recording.
here?
I'm trying to keep the mic.
I said from the airport to this.
I got a question for y'all though. You guys talked about really like starting in a classroom. I think you said it was like 20 kids in that classroom.
Yeah.
What's been your most surprising lesson or even your surprising challenge? Whether it was a triumph or a challenge that came with going from a classroom of 20 to a global million, audience of millions.
I think the biggest challenge is, we're dealing with people. That's always a challenge. So it's you have to be very delicate when you deal with people, and the littlest things can be a big issue. So it's like if you didn't say thank you to somebody, that might not be a big deal to you. You just got a lot of stuff going on, but they might keep that in the back of their head. And
People keep receipts.
yeah, and they
keep 'em.
So I think being a leader is something that is not easy,
Yeah.
and you learn over the course of time. So when you deal with people, you have to be mindful how you speak. You have to keep a pretty level keel about yourself. You gotta try to give as much praise to people as possible. You gotta try to stroke people's egos. People are very fragile, especially men. Like a lot of times you might think men are like not really emotional, but men are more emotional than women a lot of times. And they go crazy like little kids about everything. So it's like that's been something that has been a challenge because it's not easy. It's not easy when you deal with different personalities, different people that you know for a long time, and people that might not be performing at the level that you want them to perform at. It's like, how do you get the best out of people? And that's something that we learn, and we're still learning.
I mean, I think that that's something everybody in this room, if you run a business, it's so funny that you brought that up because, and did you have anything to add to that before we move on?
There's 2 parts to it. I think the first initial part was how to scale it. Like you said, we were in the classroom for 10 summers, and it was 30 kids in there. And if you ever worked in education, summers is really vacation time for teachers.
Yeah.
But I just saw a bigger plan. I wanted to implement something that would be, something that they could use outside of the 10 months of school that they had just learned. And so my first thought was like, how do I get this to other places? Like, how do people see this and realize the value of this program? And then when we would tell people, they're like, I want my kid in it. I want my kid on it. Well, we figured it out. Like social media became that, right? Because now I can't just impact the 30 kids, but now people can see it and say, wait, that lesson is great. I wish my kid was in it, but at least I have this piece of content that I could teach my kid from. So that was the first part. And then I think later on for me was dealing with entitlement.
Whose entitlement? Let's get a little bit more specific, sir.
Like you said, we're a family-oriented business.
Yeah.
And so we grew up with a lot of people, a lot of friends, and a lot of times they just feel entitled to the things that come with being in the position that we're at. But I always tell him, and I've always said all the time, that there's only a few people that understand the sacrifice, the dedication, and commitment that it takes to be here. And so a lot of people, you grew up with them, and they're looking like, all right, well, we coming along with you. And that's one of the things we've kind of like harped down on. Like, look, if you don't add value, we could be friends, but this is a business.
Yeah.
And so distinguishing between the two is something that was like, okay, yeah, we got to make a hard line here because this could get ugly quick.
But one thing I want to add, like even when I was saying like you gotta be careful how you, so like just an example, how like talking to people, like I send people different tasks to do every day. So instead of saying like post this on YouTube at 4 o'clock, I'll say like, can you post this or please post this? Of course, it's a question, but they don't really have a choice unless there's an emergency. But I personally, like, I try to look at like how if somebody told me like just do this, I might feel a way about that. Like, so I'll be like, please post this. Can you post this? Like little stuff like that. It might not seem like a big thing, but you want to treat people how you yourself would like to be treated and how you want to be talked to. I think a lot of times when people get in positions of power, they kind of forget that, and they become a tyrant. And it's like, that's not really the best way to go about it.
It's so funny you saying that. You're in my head because I saw the conversation that you and Pinky Cole had on Revolt, and she brought up leadership, and I actually spoke with her earlier about it. And I know that it we all understand that leadership contributes to your company's, not only the culture, but the growth. And I think that it evolves. Your leadership style, it takes shape. We've already talked about how it takes shape. What do you think your biggest stretch as a leader has been to date in your business, both of you? And it might be the same. Biggest stretch, like the thing that you felt you had to really put work in to cultivate in yourself as a leader.
I mean, just understanding that you can't expect everybody to have the same level of passion that you do. So like that's difficult for me because for me, like I'm like an extreme person.
Yeah.
Like, I don't do drugs. If I ever did drugs, I'd be like the ultimate drug addict. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know how to just.
You don't have a light version.
Yeah.
You were like full fat.
Yeah.
You were like,
it's
okay.
like all or nothing.
Yeah.
So it's like for me, like if I'm up, like from the time that I wake up to the time that I go to sleep, that's a work day. Like, so you kind of look at it, and it's like I'm very particular about everything.
Yeah.
Like, I want the napkin folded a certain way. I want everything, and I'm realizing like a lot of people don't have that same dedication or attention to detail. And it's like you have to understand that you can only push people so far, because it's like after a while, if it's not working, just get somebody else. But it's like you can't just continuously try to make somebody you, because they're not you. So that is something that I had to learn. Like, it's like, how do you communicate something? How do you try to get people to understand things without like really getting frustrated to the point where it's a real blow up argument? So I think that that's something that is hard for people to understand, because when you're starting a business, like you want everybody to be as passionate about your business, but it's not their business.
You want to keep it tight.
Yeah, so it's like
you have a lot to lose. Like, I mean, essentially people are not assholes because they just want to be. They something that they have to lose is driving that energy. Right. So it's not good, but it's understandable sometimes. Yeah. What about you, Troy?
Yeah, I would piggyback off of what he said. So usually when that happens, then like they're gonna call Troy. And so managing personalities and understanding, being an avid listener. Like I always try to pride myself on listening before I speak, and like really like intently listen. Not like people just kind of hear by. Like I'm an active listener, so I want to hear everybody's perspective and then have a solution. And so like if there's ever a problem, my first thing is like how do we fix it. Like I'm not gonna harp on the problem. I'm like, how do we fix this to make this something that's serviceable, especially for our audience. And so working with adults and working with kids, you got to be able to communicate. Like I'm talking about like kindergarten kids, like what I'm saying?
I'm curious. I mean, I work with kids as well, and I saw that like teaching is your background. Yeah. So I'm curious, what is something that you brought into entrepreneurship, and not just with EYL, not with just how your business is structured, but the hustle and the game of growing a business, was there anything from the classroom that you brought that was like, yo, I'm keeping this because that might be a tool that somebody in this room could use?
Yeah, I mean, it was that urgency to like not stop. Like I was like completely dedicated to the art form of teaching. Like it was my thing. It was my passion to the, you know, almost to a fault. Like he would call me like, yo, bro, you got sick days. Why you don't take any? I'm like, nah, like if I leave one day, I know nobody can replace me. Like I was just completely dedicated to it. And so when it came to business, it was just the same thing. It was like, all right, well, I'm gonna be dedicated to this the same way. I think another thing was the ability just to make people feel important. I feel I'm super intentional about that. Like even when we came here, I was like, I want to meet everybody who wants to meet us. Like we're here for that. You know what I mean? Because I've been on the other end of that. Like when I'm like, I'm studying somebody that I really admire, and I'm like, if I just have one moment to meet that person, what's my value add going to be? What am I going to say? And so knowing that those roles have flipped a little bit, it's like I want to be super intentional, but I want them to feel important. Same way I wanted the kids to feel important. I wanted them to feel my impact. Because one day I probably wouldn't be standing in that classroom, but they'll remember what our interaction was.
Yeah.
Same thing when I meet people, you know, outside or at the airport. I want them to feel it, like they're important because they are important, right? Without them and their support, there is no us.
Yeah, I feel like you guys both demonstrate affirming people's value. I mean, if you're in the business of value, you talk about money. One of the things that you also talk a lot about in your podcast are cultivating relationships. You already said that you got a family environment at EYL. A big thing at ROI is some of these people are meeting for the first time. You know, it's a whole lot of, let me get your deets, let me hook up, you know, and it's passionate because you're in this room. You wanna have somebody be your baby's godchild after 3 days, or your godmother to your child. Like you know, y'all planning to get your hair done together next week and all of these things. But business relationships and really, like you said, really being able to separate the personal and the business, especially when you're working with people who you love. What are some of your best practices when it comes to like really delineating? Because I think a lot of people because we have a lot of people who start their company, so you're gonna go with the low-hanging fruit, cousin, friend, sister, husband. But as you grow, that you get to explore a greater community, but there are definitely some learnings that come there, and we've been hearing a lot about the friction of that. Can you speak a little bit about that?
About the networking part, or
about when you make the connection, then taking it to a place where it actually becomes a real part of your business, a thriving relationship, and knowing that it's not just like, because the hard thing is like you meet someone, you realize they have something that you need, you have something that they need, but you don't know how to go from there, and you want an authentic relationship. You don't want to just, it's not all cap. You don't want to just connect and it goes nowhere.
I think for me, like, it's all about being organic.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like you really can't force a relationship.
Okay.
It's like a romantic relationship. Like, you can't force a romantic relationship. Like, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be.
Exactly.
But I feel like a lot of times people network from a selfish standpoint, and it's more so like, what can you do for me? And it's obvious, and that's not really the best way to build a relationship. So the best way to relationship is like, what can I do for you?
Absolutely.
And to make yourself as valuable as possible. So now that becomes a lot easier. Like when you have a lot more value, like it's easy for us to network because we've built a tremendous amount of value.
Yeah.
But like trying to network with no or low value, that becomes extremely difficult, because that's like more charity at that point in time. Where it's like, you know.
So it's still about, there's still some transactional nature of it, because we all are trying to spread resources, but it's not just that. But you're saying the organic nature of it makes those transactions less, gratuitous.
Exactly. And I feel like another mistake that people make is that they try to network up all the time. Like they want to meet the CEO of Forbes, they want to meet Robert Smith, but you're not at a point in your life where that relationship makes sense. Mm-hmm. It's humbling to say that, but it's true. And
so you're talking about more about peer networking.
Yeah, you got to network across. So network with somebody that's on the same level as you, and then you guys help. And then when it's time for you to, meet Oprah, then you'll actually be able to benefit, because it's like, we had to understand that early. Like we wanted to meet a bunch of people early in our development, but it wasn't time, and it would have been a waste. So we had to network across. And that's what we did. Like if you really watched Earn Your Leisure from the beginning stages, it was a lot of people you never heard of. people like a restaurant owner from Baltimore, or a CPA from Brooklyn, or a real estate broker from Long Island. Like, these are just regular people that added value in their community, but they weren't Steve Harvey, they weren't Tyler Perry, because we weren't there yet.
Exactly.
So what we did was just use that, and we built the platform, and then we just started scaling up. And then on it, now it's time for us to meet Dame Dash. Now it's time for us to meet, you know, T.I., Rick Ross, and Steve Harvey, and Tyler Perry. So you build a pyramid one brick at a time. And I feel like a lot of times people try to rush the process.
Yeah.
So it's extremely important to be strategic about networking, know where you're at, know what networking makes sense. But like I said, more importantly, consistently try to add value to what you're doing, because that always makes the networking aspect easier. But then also it's important to follow up. And not just follow up like, you know, on just to like see what deals are going on, but just on a human relationship. Like,
Check in.
check in, yeah, you know, check in, happy birthday, stuff like that, just random stuff, because then you stay in a loop.
Yeah.
Right? Just randomly call. You don't want to be annoying. It's a difference between being persistent and being annoying.
Yes.
Like,
I think there's a fine line, but you got to toe it.
It gets crossed
Troy,
all the
what do you
time.
think?
Yeah, I'll just add to it. And that's something that obviously not coming from a business background or a sales background, I had to learn myself.
Yeah.
It was like there was opportunities where we had a chance to meet people or interview people, and in my mind was like, all right, well, we can do that another time. And then another time never came. And I was like, all right, that's never going to happen to me again. Number one, I'm going to attack everything like I don't have another chance. So if I'm in the room, I'm going for it, because this might be my only opportunity. But I got to be aware of, like, yo, what is my value add? What am I going to say when I get to this place?
Yeah.
And so that's something I've developed now, where it's like, if I see somebody, I'm like, they can add value, I'm going up. And I'm like, how can I, like, here's what we do. I love what you do. How can we highlight it so that more people can hear what you're doing so you can help more people? And that's just the formula for what we've done. Like you said, like the people that we were talking about, you never heard of, but they're adding value in our community at a different rate than, you know, most people, right? And so it was like, if they had no platform, we have to be the platform for them. And so that kind of was one of those things like I had to learn. And then from the standpoint of, you spoke about the differentiation between family and business. I mean, it's another fine line that we got to be very careful with. But I think at this point, people respect what we do. Like, they understand what we mean to the business, right? And I think that most people that are around us realize that, and they understand, like, if these guys are able to function at the highest, everybody's going to thrive.
Thanks.
And if they haven't realized that, then they're probably not going to be around much longer, right? Or they haven't been around since. So it's important to know that, right? Because our thing is we're looking out for the best intentions of the entire brand, but bigger than the entire brand, the entire community. Like, we feel that responsibility. And so we want to make sure that our work is at a high level. We want to make sure that the interviews are at a high level. We want to make sure that our transparency is at the highest level, because we understand the responsibility that we can't get back, and that's the trust of our community.
No, that's facts. Let's give it up for that, y'all. All right, let's talk about a little bit of shmoney. I want to talk a little bit about some shmoney. I'm curious, like, we really talk a lot about just the resources. You share so much. But we have a lot of entrepreneurs here, and a lot of times we make mistakes. So I want to know, what do you guys think the top financial fails that entrepreneurs make often when they're trying to scale their business? Because a big thing at ROI, everyone's trying to scale and grow. And so you guys are like the poster children for dope scaling. So really, like, what are the fails? You may have made them yourself, but I mean, like, what are you seeing, especially Rashad, with your finance background? Like, what are you seeing that are kind of the misses?
You never want to over leverage yourself. That's something that's important. You want to make sure that you can stay lean, because anything can happen. You know, you have a couple bad months, and if your overhead is crazy, then that's going to put you out of business. So that's important. Doing one thing at a time. I think as far as scaling, that's something that, you know, when we started, everything from, it's like, okay, now we got a YouTube channel, and then that works. Now we get merch, and then we can start doing live events. Then we can have paid subscription. Then we can start producing other shows. But we didn't do everything at one time, because it's hard to focus on a variety of different things.
It feels to other people like it all happened so fast. They got this many different extensions. Like, that is a big thing, that you literally did one thing at a time.
Well, that's important too. So it's like, they always say the average millionaire has 7 streams of income. So that's extremely discouraging for most people because it's like, all right, you're looking at it from a standpoint, I either got to start 7 different businesses or I have to get 7 jobs. And it's like, who can do either one of those, right?
Yeah, that's a lot.
But what we learned early on is that you don't necessarily need 7 different businesses. You just need one business, and then you need 7 different verticals off of that one business. So it's like,
Major key.
yeah, that's so that's what we're able to do. Where it's like, okay, well, we have a media company, but what can we branch off of that? So that's why, okay, now we can get paid a couple different ways just for producing free content on the audio side, on the YouTube side. And then it's like, okay, now we can start selling merch. We got to wear clothes anyway, so we might as well wear our own clothes. And then it's like, all right, well, this is an extension. We can start doing live events, right? It's still under the wheelhouse of what we're doing. And then it's like, okay, well, EYL University, we can start charging and have a more, personalized feel to it, and then do it that way. Or we can create collaborations, or we can do a side TV show with Revolt. So
The diversification is very, very organic and strategic, and it has such a very harmonious vibe that you almost don't even know when you're leaving from one place to another. So it's a very seamless consumer.
it's like a tree. It's like a tree. Like just have different roots. You have different branches of the tree, but it's still one tree. So that's something that we learned, and we're still doing that. We're still developing different branches off of our tree, which produce income.
Give us more branches. We here for the tree. We want a big old tree. Troy, you have any thoughts? to
Yeah,
add
I
to
mean, what he's saying is spot on, but I think underneath all that is that you got to realize that you can't do it by yourself. And so when we sat, I'll never forget, we were sitting in my basement when he said, hey, you want to do a podcast? And I'm like, yeah. And we kind of looked at each other like, so how do we do it?
Sounds like a good idea. So now what?
I'm like, I was just looking at it like, this is my brother. So like, he wants to do it, I'm doing it. It's not even a question, I'm doing it. And so we had to figure that out. And we would try to, we wrote down ideas and how we're going to do this. And then, that's how our third partner, Mike, came about. He had an expertise, or he had pretty much a good knowledge base in tech. And so when we had the content, or what we were going to do with the content, well, how do we get it out to the people? And so he became our partner, so we offered him equity in the company. And it was like, all right, well, now let's start there. Same thing when we were doing merch. We were doing it by ourselves until we found out somebody that could help us in the guidance of it. Okay, perfect. Now that's how we do that. Same with live events. We went to an event. We would go, like, similar to what this community is doing here, and saying, like, wait, this is large scale. We need to be doing this. How do we do this? And so we get partnership in that. And so understanding that, yes, you become the faces of the brand, but you don't have to do everything inside of the brand. It's one of those lessons I think I spoke to somebody about this maybe yesterday at lunch or dinner. And I was like, there's a difference between working on the business and working in the business. And if the further you can get working on the business, you can scale at a faster rate, right? Because when you're in it, you're responsible for everything, right? So it's a tough balance to do both. So as entrepreneurs, the key is actually to work on the business so you can scale it. But obviously, when you're in the beginning, you're doing everything.
Yeah.
But you can't do everything by yourself for too long.
Any like really, really specific tips for growing your income from a podcast specifically? Like, I had a chat just a few moments ago in another session with 2 podcast network creators, and they were given like very raw, real level setting insights on, like, yes, it is one of the hottest marketing vehicles for your business. It's one of the hottest places to be right now. Everybody and their auntie has a podcast, but really growing and making it a revenue generating device for your business. How, like, what do you have anything that's kind of like a game changer tip for that?
Yeah, I think one of the best ways, especially for people who are just starting in the podcasting space, people always look for, the ad revenue, and they're looking for the McDonald's or the Pepsis. I'm like, well, that's going to be tough, right? We just spoke about, if you're trying to network, you want to network across, not network up. You'll eventually get to there, hopefully, if you add value and you're consistent with the content. But my thing is, like, there's a local business in your neighborhood right now who needs advertisement.
Come on.
Right? You could walk into the pizzeria who's owned by somebody in your neighborhood and say, look, I have some ad space on this podcast I just dropped. Are you willing to spend $50 to put this on? I got 1,000 listeners a week, right? And now you keep growing. You find local businesses, you highlight them. That helps your brand, that helps their brand, right? There's a value add or a value exchange there. Obviously, as you continue on, you add value, you get more listeners, you get more. Now you start leveling up, right? You might find, like, now it's the local dealership. Okay, well, this local dealership has 14 branches in the county. This becomes a bigger play, right? And so rather than saying like, all right, I got to get a McDonald's ad. Nah, look around your neighborhood, look across.
Yeah.
Maybe your partner has a law firm that needs, right? It's tax season. Hey, you think you want to put an ad on my show that I'm about to start? Of course, because when people hear it, they're gonna get more clients, and so there's a value exchange there.
But even the question, I think it needs to be reframed a little bit, because that's another mistake people make. They're looking to make money too quickly, and they're looking at it like it's a hustle.
Let's talk about it.
So it's like, for me, even before Earn Your Leisure, like I said, when I was a financial advisor, my goal was to build a following on social media. I didn't know how I was going to monetize the following on social media, but I understood that once you have enough eyeballs, you can find ways to make money.
You can do things with
So
that.
the goal was to be creative, to add value, to see how to get more and more people that will champion, like you build a community. Community building, I think people skip past that and they want to go to monetization.
That was definitely one of the learnings that they shared.
The community building aspect of it is more important, because it's like once you have enough people, yeah, you can monetize a variety of different ways. But it's like once you're looking to monetize right away, you're going to start doing things that A, is going to be not beneficial to building your community, and B, your focus isn't going to be on the real purpose of actually building the community.
Yeah.
So it's like for us, we didn't make any money for probably a year or a year and a half, but that wasn't the primary focus. The primary focus was like, let's really grow this out and really build a real community. The money's gonna come on the back end.
Yeah.
So that's something. So to answer your question, you need to learn how to build a community, right? So the first thing that you should look at is social media and see, okay, what is everybody that's popular doing in my space? Study what they're doing and do the exact opposite. So that's what we do.
Okay.
You have to be consistent. You have to be extremely, original and up to date, because things change so much. The algorithm change everything. But
By the
it's
day,
like,
sometimes
you really
it feels
gotta
like.
really, really hone in on social media and really master that, because that is what's really, it's free if you think about it, right?
Facts.
But you're gonna spend a lot of time. It's gonna cost you, your energy and your time. But you can build a community with very low cost. So this is speaking from firsthand experience. So it's like really, really figure out, and it might take months to figure it out, but figure out what's your strategy on social media. Be consistent with that. Collaborate with other people. That's another reason why we were able to grow, because it's like every week we got somebody else coming on. They happy that they on the show. They're gonna share our content. They might have 1,000 followers. They might have 1 million followers. But no matter what, somebody new is seeing our content for the first time because of them. Like, we didn't just decide to just speak to ourselves every single show. That would have limited our growth. So find ways to collaborate with other people, but really, really focus on growing enthusiastic, evangelical base. It's like a religion, really. Like, you gotta really.
I was like, you dropped that evangelical. Are there any disciples in the place?
Nah, but if you study marketing, a lot of companies, it's built like a religion. They have a Messiah type figure. They have like one day a week where the community comes. They have, different testaments that you have to, like, these are real things that at the highest level of business, that's how they structure their business model. So it's like, we studying business, we studying the same thing. We understand it, like, okay, like the word cult comes from culture, right? Like, so it's like, you have to understand how to build a culture. And you don't need, the good thing is that you don't need a lot of people to follow you to be extremely wealthy, but you do need a dedicated core. So once you get your dedicated core, now it's going to be a lot easier to monetize that.
Yeah, and then I just add to what he said, because everything, like when he's saying first experience, literally we lived that. All money in, like we were just talking about Nip before we came in here, but that we really lived by that model. So like, yeah, if money was coming in, it wasn't like we were putting it in our pocket. Everything that we had was going back into the business.
Reinvesting.
We reinvested into the business, because at the end of the day, it was like, well, we know where we want to go, and we know who we're looking at. Like, hey, can we compete with the Breakfast Club? What equipment are they using? All right, well, we got to figure out how we can get to that point. So before we spend any money, if we got money from an ad or any type of marketing, it was like, all right, well, we got these shotgun mics. We got to get those mics now. All right, we were using our iPhones, and if anybody was following from day one, we're using iPhones, legit iPhones. And we're like, well, what cameras can we use? All right, well, let me figure out what can record 4K unlimited. All right, well, that's what we're going to use. So everything that we had in that first year, probably 14 months, was invested back into the business. So there wasn't any money that we were taking in. but we didn't come into it, like you said, to make money. It was never an idea to say like, all right, we're going to do a podcast and we're going to become millionaires from doing this. That was never the thought. It was like, he asked the question, I'm like, yeah, we already speak to each other every day. That's easy, let's do it. It became a business because it was like, oh, we see where this can go. And we knew the impact and the value it could add.
But you already had the infrastructure between you.
Yeah. I know him for a long time.
Yeah, okay. I got one more question before I know, because this audience is ready. I think it was Tyler Perry who challenged y'all to think bigger when y'all were talking about visioning the expanse and the growth of InvestFest.
Mm-hmm.
How has your capacity to vision your growth expanded as your audience and your platform has? What is like? Do you have a limit on how big you believe in and actually can strategically vision, or are you still kind of working in like short term, or not even short term, but like let's see what 5 more years? Are you really building from a
good question?
Sky's the limit.
I think it changes. Like, once you realize, okay, this is my goal, and then you hit that goal, or you get close to hitting that goal, then your goal changes. So it's like it keeps moving. Or you might have a conversation with somebody, you're in a different environment, different room, and your perspective on what your level of success is changes.
Yeah.
So I think that for us, is like you said, when we met Tyler Perry and we was at InvestFest, 14,000 people there. Like, to us, that's an amazing accomplishment.
Snap on that.
So, thank you.
Yes, sir.
So we told him that, he asked us what the goal was, and like, I want this to be as big as Essence Fest. And he said, that's it. That's all you're thinking about? That's it? So I'm like, all right, well, it got to be bigger than Essence Fest. So it's just, it changes your perspective.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah. So now it's like, all right. So I feel like that's very important, to never get stagnant. Never, and that's why I said, like, it's never really like, you got to just stay even keel, because you can always do something bigger. Like, you can always, Elon Musk, perfect example of that. Like, there's a guy that sold PayPal for $200 million. Most people, $200 million is life over. Like,
that's,
it's game.
We good.
And then he goes broke and spent almost every dollar to start SpaceX and Tesla. Now he's about to be the first trillionaire, and he's trying to colonize Mars. So it's like,
Yeah, like this planet, I'm off that.
I've done everything here.
I'm like off this Earth stuff, like.
So it's like, whether you agree with him or not, that's but I'm just saying, just to have that kind of vision.
Just the capacity,
like so it's like you never stop.
Yeah, and I think Tyler's the perfect person. Like, before we met him, we actually went to see his studio, and it's one thing to hear about the studio, but to actually see his vision in real life, it's like, oh wait, you have to think bigger. And so, I mean, we were kind of on the cusp of that, right? We've traveled and always said to ourselves, like, think about this, like, we're in a classroom with 30 kids, now saying we want to be the world leaders for financial literacy for our communities, and all communities really, because financial literacy goes across everybody's community.
Absolutely.
The people that gravitate toward our content are the people who need it the most. I always say that. But it was like, yeah, it's important. It's important that we touch the continent of Africa. It's important that we're in London, because there's people who look like us who don't have the platform or don't have the resource or the person that they're getting the information from. And so it was like, all right, well, InvestFest is one thing, but like, what happens when we bring it to Ghana? What happens when we bring it to, like, when we brought it to London? What happens when I go back to Kingston, Jamaica, the importance of that?
We got, yes. Represent.
Yo, I'm not.
Well, you know what? I really think, like, that is a beautiful place to, if you was carrying a mic, I would say you could drop it at that point.
But also, I just want to say one thing too, because
sure.
This is why exposure is important. We interviewed Master P, and he was like, he graduated college in 1 month. Nobody really understood it, so he kind of broke it. But he was like, he went to school. He went to University of Houston, and his business professor gave him a lesson on McDonald's, and he was like, he learned that lesson, and he's like, all right, I don't need to go to school no more. Like, this is all I need to know.
This is it.
And Nipsey Hussle the same way. Nipsey Hussle read a book named Contagious, and the beginning part of it, the guy from Philadelphia had $100 cheesesteaks. And he got an idea to start selling his mixtape for $100. He never read the rest of the book. He's like, this is all I got. So even with InvestFest, like, we went to another one of our friends' conferences. We were actually speakers at, and we saw the vision. We saw what he did. which at the time, that was the highest level of production that I ever saw from somebody. And it was like, all right, we don't need to see anymore. Like, that was the seed that started in February. Like, we got to do this, but bigger.
And sometimes just something has to be real to you.
So I say that to say, just come in here, or just like, you always got to go places. You always got to be in different environments, because it's like, you never know, just that one thing can spark something in your brain, and it's like, all right, that's all. That's it. I don't
It's
need
your
anything
zeitgeist.
else. I can come here for a whole entire week and just see one thing, and then that's what I came for.
That's your game
When we were on
changer.
the stage, I was like being 100% honest. This is like a beautiful audience, because we know what it takes to put on a production like this. So when I'm looking at it, I'm like, wow, they got luxury couches in the front. Like, I'm like, oh, this is comfortable. Like,
And
so
they real nice.
they nice. I know. I saw them, but nah, it takes a lot to do that, and we know what goes behind that. So I'm like, all right, you can see the vision. Right?
Yeah.
So like, yeah, there's over 1,000 people here this year, but imagine what next year looks like.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And that's why we're talking about scaling, and that's why we're talking about ROI. And let's get some questions up in here. Oh, you were the first. Your hand went up first. I'm gonna let you go. but can you tell us who you are, where
Okay.
you're from, and then give us your question.
So I'm Patrice J. White. I'm actually from Kingston, Jamaica. Big up, big up, big up. And I have 75,000 followers on Instagram, and they all know who my favorite podcasters are.
Love.
So, let me calm down. Sorry. Guys, I'm nervous. You guys are the reason why I'm here.
Oh wow.
Who?
You're the reason a lot of people are here.
Yes. So, I know you guys, collaborations mean a lot to you guys. Guys, I'm nervous.
You got this. You're great.
So collaborations and ownership means a lot to you guys. And I've been with you guys from your YouTube days to now your glow up days. So I see how important collaboration and ownership is for you guys. Sorry.
You got this, sis. There's a reason why you're in
we're
this
good.
room. Take
You're
your
gonna end up right here
time.
by the
Alright.
end of this.
So
Take your time.
now, as a Jamaican who, my next big thing I want to be in life is to be the next Oprah Winfrey of my industry. I'm in health and wellness, and I deal with everything that covers health and wellness. Now, originally, Naomi asked me the question in October when I sat with her. She does branding in Jamaica. She asked me, when you think of the #1 podcast that you want to be on, which podcast it is that you want to be on, and you guys were the name I called. Now, just sitting here listening to you guys, I'm like, I have my own podcast that I'm coming out with. How can I get you guys on my podcast? That's #1. #2,
Come on.
you have to be brave, don't it?
You
I
are-
made the investment to be here.
Yeah.
Choose
#2,
courage.
I actually reached out to your team in November because I'm putting on a financial wellness event in Jamaica. Your team responded, so the dialogue has been there. And I'm like, okay, now that I can talk to you guys in person, I'm going to invest to make sure I'm in the room with you guys so I can get my event going because I want you guys on the event. So here I am. Oh, can we talk?
Yo, Ab, you hear that? Abdullah. Yeah, I'll talk to you right after this. Yeah, we're not going nowhere. Oh, done.
Anybody else? Let's get our next question. I'm gonna take. Oh, we got. I'm sorry. Yes. Camila.
Yes, that's me. All right, just so you know,
Yo, I
'cause you
need all
didn't
the
come to the
Jamaicans on
Schmilly-
this side of the room right now. Yo.
I'm
All right.
sorry. I'm like, yes, Camila.
Yes, we travel in groups.
Yeah.
I'm actually from Belize, but I've lived in Jamaica for 15 years. And I'm adopted. I'm married to a Jamaican. And I'm
Smart
the
woman.
#1 business and finance journalist in Jamaica. You guys know, right? Can testify. Yes, I am.
Taking stock, people.
I
Taking
own,
stock.
taking stock. Yes, you remember. Yes, so
Gotcha.
I also own a media company that specializes in producing financial news and education that's easy to understand. So I do exactly what you guys do, but in Jamaica. And so I came here for you. I love Rachel. I'm in the club. I'm a Schmilly, but I came here to learn from you guys. And I have a million business questions about your model and your structure and how you've been able to do it and where you're going next. But I'm going to use this opportunity to do exactly what Pat just did and say, no, actually, I understand because I know Keisha spoke to you guys a couple days ago.
Yeah.
You're interested in the Jamaican market. I have all the information you guys need. So whenever you're ready, just let me know. I know all the people who you want to meet to have Invest Fest. I also am planning Money Week for later this year. You guys heard about Money Week? Yes. So it could be Invest Fest / Money Week / where your thing name, Pat? Your self-made life. Yeah, just come and we'll hook it up.
Yo, as long as we got
Pull
some
up, they said.
Pull up.
Pull up.
All right, can I get this young lady here in the front?
We gotta have a lot of ackee and salt.
Oh,
for
I'm
sure.
sorry. Let me get this brother first, and I'm gonna come right back to you, sis.
Boiled dumpling too. Not
What
fried.
up, what up, what up?
So many questions.
Is this working? So my name is Jabez El Israel, and I want to tell y'all thank you for real, because y'all changed my life, for real. Like, cause when the pandemic hit, I like chose to just focus on me and like study. And so I just came across y'all podcast and I just went in. Like every day I was watching y'all podcast for real. And I actually just did a post. I put a post up. I don't know if your team posted it, who posted it, but y'all posted me on your page.
With the books?
Yeah, with the books.
Yeah.
No, that was fire.
Because I did the 10K in 10 days challenge with Rachel. And I got off the books. We did like,
Come on.
man, we went nuts. We hit
Congrats
like 50,
on that,
yeah,
too.
we hit like 15K in 10 days.
Come on.
And so I did the $44 Earn Your Leisure Cash App because I get a lot. I was trying to make y'all like notifications blow up. You feel me? And so, anyways, what I wanted to ask y'all, because like for me with the book, I got to set this question up because I'm curious. Like with the book, I chose to write the book, right? Because I got a goal to help over 1 million people get down to their natural body size and stay there for life. I want to connect with you. You understand? And so I wrote the book because I lost 100 pounds. So I wanted to write a book that would help people. So I wrote the book, and then I watched Gary Vee. He said to start posting on TikTok. So I put a post up on TikTok, and it went viral. And then that was a moment when I was like, I'm finna get off with this book for real. Like I knew it. And so my question for y'all is, when did y'all have a moment with the podcast when you was like, okay, this gonna work for real? What was that moment?
I think we have
Like in
similar
the
ones, but you
beginning.
want to say?
Yeah, I think.
Thank you for your questions.
Yeah, appreciate that. And your post was definitely dope too. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
It was a bunch of different moments, but early on, we went to LA episode. It was probably
16?
something like that. Yeah, we was in like the first couple of months, and we went to LA and we decided to do just a pop-up networking event, free. This pop-up like within like 2 days, like we announced it on a Friday and it was on a Monday, and it was on a Monday, and it was in Carson, California, which is.
You from there? Shout out to Carson.
I was about
Come on,
to.
Carson.
Is Brooklyn in the house? Okay, there we go.
I was gonna say Carson is kind of out the way.
But that's what ROI do. We bring people from everywhere.
But it was packed, and people from San Diego came, people from IE. So it was like, and they was telling us like, yo, and this is still early in our journey. So I'm like, wow, this is crazy. Like we're across the country. We're from New York, and we're in LA, and people from all over Southern California is coming, and they're so enthusiastic about it, and they, couple gang members, like, you know what I'm saying? So
All encompassing.
it was like, all
But
right.
see, that's how you guys are helping the community, because they was at your event. They won't shoot nobody. They won't driving nobody by.
See the
They
correlation?
were at your event.
Yeah.
You are already shifting the culture.
But that was, to me, that was the moment where I was like, okay, this is much bigger than even probably we even think about it.
Yeah, I think it's there was a few moments. I could probably name 3. So even prior to that, we had we were doing episodes. We didn't, like I said, we didn't really know the podcast space. And one day, our boy was like, "Yo, y'all in the top 100." I'm like, "Top 100 what?" He was like, "Podcast." I'm like, "There's a ranking for this?" And I watched this. It was a shout out to my brother Derek Falcon. Episode 11, we got into the top 100, and then the next week we put out episode 12 with our brother MG, the mortgage guy, and we shot up to like number 8 in the country. And I was like, wait, hold on. This is different. Like, I'm looking at the names, and I'm like, I'm seeing our emojis up there. I'm like, this is pretty wild. And after I realized that, I started seeing how many people were listening. Like, you could see it. Like, wait, I remember the first episode we put out. We just passed our 4-year anniversary last week, and I just sat there. I'm looking at it like, wait, 800 people listen. That's crazy. Next day, wait, we got 1,200. The whole week, we got 1,800 people listen to something that we just did in my dining room. I'm like, this is special. And so then after we did the LA event, we did one in Brooklyn, and it was packed. Like, I'm talking about out the door. We were actually in the street for most of it. And we were walking up to the event, and I had like my staff who I was working with at the time for my summer program. And this dude walked up, he's like, Troy. And I'm like, we're from New York, so it's like, hey, hold on. And he's like, yo, man, I just took the bus from Rhode Island to come see you. I'm like, yo, this is, all right, this is not and then before we walk in, another dude, he's like, yo, I just took the train up from Philly. I didn't want to miss this. What y'all doing is so important. Like, we're like 20 episodes in. I'm like, oh, this is something special. Like, we got something here. Yeah.
Nice. Y'all, I'm really sorry. This is unfortunately the end of our journey together. But it's not the end of your journey with EYL, because they're going to keep on giving you what you need. And I want to invite y'all to connect with these brothers shortly after we wrap. But can we please give some love to Rashad Bilal and Troy Mullins, and thank them for sharing. Thank you guys so much. This has been a vibe.